All right, can we talk about what you told me about during the break?
Yeah, we can. I'm emailing the interested parties now.
Okay. Can you tell the audience that listens to KFI the same way, with the same enthusiasm you told me? Because that's a remarkable story.
All right, dude, you're going to have to watch this video that is about to be on your page. You're going to have to watch this video when you get a moment. It's happened in Hawthorne. I'm not sure if it's L.A. police or Hawthorne police. But
there's swearing in the video?
There is swearing in the video, so there's going to be a warning placed on the video, and that's why Brian, I've asked in an email to drop everything he's doing and clean up this audio. The last 90 seconds of this 3.5-minute video involves a man being taken into custody while Hawthorne police, they were investigating something on his street or something. I don't know. And he was videoing them with his cell phone, maybe taking pictures. A couple of officers came over to talk to him. He went over to talk to them, turned around, put his hands behind his back because he knew that they were going to take him into custody. This was after he put his Rottweiler in his car. The windows were rolled down. As 3 officers had him in custody, the Rottweiler got out of the car, charged the officers.
Oh, boy.
They didn't immediately do anything but try to calm the dog. And when the dog would not, back off, one of the cops opened fire, and that is caught on video.
Wow! With
I want to say 3, 4, maybe 5 shots, and this dog is, he's writhing on the ground. You can hear his yelps.
Maybe I don't want to watch it.
It is a very tough video to watch, but
I'm not going to watch it.
Given the circumstances. With the owner in custody, it raises a lot of different questions about how this went down, what's going to happen to that officer, to policy, to that owner, any kind of lawsuits that might be filed. I mean, This just happened yesterday, and the video was posted.
Thank God
just
it happened
today.
in California, though, so we get another black guy with this kind of crap.
And that video will be on our website shortly. Thanks to @Newsbreaker on Twitter. For getting that out there, and now we're getting that out there, and it's going to be big news this week.
So we'll put a big disclaimer there before.
Yeah, there's not much cursing. There's a lot of S's. I don't think there is anything really worse, but it is a very graphic video, especially for animal lovers and pet owners. It's a tough video to watch.
Unbelievable. All right, we'll have that up on the website.
We'll have it up there shortly.
Yeah, as soon as we get it, when it's up there officially, we'll give you a big old shout out,
the Norwegian,
big old heads up,
Norwegian thumbs up.
Tim Conway Jr. here. I'm watching this video. It's unbelievable. I'm only halfway through it here, Bender, and it's one of the greatest videos I've ever seen. Yeah, it's a guy who has he's yelling at the cops for some reason.
Well, according to Daily Breeze.
Right.
There was a robbery, an armed robbery at a house across the street from where this guy is shooting video.
Right.
And there's like 6, 7, 8 cop cars on this street.
Right.
So he's shooting video of the cop cars and of the cops. And a couple of the officers take issue with it and take him into custody on an obstruction.
I think he would have been okay if he was just taking video, but then he starts yelling at the cops. And the cops don't like that. And so he goes over. I'm just watching. I'm not even halfway through the video. But you got to go see it. It's remarkable. It includes some violence. All right? You're going to see the dog shot, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not into that, if you can't deal with that, don't watch it.
Yeah, it is a tough watch. I've seen a lot of video of a lot of things. This is a tough watch.
Yeah, I'm halfway through it. I'm to the point where he was yelling at the officers, and now the 2 cops are approaching him to ask him what he's yelling about. And so he goes and he puts the dog in the car, and then he starts walking towards the 2 officers. And he clearly has an attitude towards the cops. He turns around. They handcuff him. And now they're in the process of handcuffing him. He puts his dog back into a little black car. Looks like a fairly new model compact car. And they're handcuffing this guy. Now they're taking him back over the scene. And the guy who owns the dog is really pissed at the cops for some reason. And now the cops are starting to manhandle the guy. The dog sees it now, and the dog is about to jump out of the car. The dog's barking, the dog's going nuts, and the dog jumps out of the car. Now, the dog...
I can play the audio from that point if you'd like.
Wait a minute. He's yelling, he's grabbing, now he's biting at one of the cops, and the cop turns around and shoots the dog 3 or 4 times right in front of the guy there, and the guy who's handcuffed is going absolutely berserk. And that poor dog, man. Boy, oh boy. And then there's a car that gets in the way. But that dog was in a lot of pain there at the end. This is going to be the story that everybody is showing tomorrow and everybody is talking about tomorrow. That is the video that tomorrow will be as popular as any video online. And I would venture to say that right now it has 510 views. By tomorrow, it'll be over 1 million. Way over 1 million.
Oh, way over. Yeah, way over.
And it's the video is on our website. And again, if you can't stomach it, if it's too much for you, I totally get it. I just saw it myself. At the end, it's very, very tough to watch. You know, the dog clearly attacking the cops, lunging at him, biting him, and then the cops shoot the dog, and they didn't shoot him dead. The dog dead. I don't know if the dog is dead now, but they did shoot him 3 or 4 times.
The dog is dead.
The dog is dead.
Yeah.
But the dog on his back, just crying and barking and, screaming as dogs do. That's very difficult to watch.
And this guy, Leon Rosby, he was in custody overnight, Sunday night into Monday morning.
The guy who owned the dog.
Yeah, the guy who owned the dog, taken into custody for obstruction. He was released at 5 Monday morning, as the story is.
Oh, he's got to be pissed and heartbroken, too. I don't know how close he was to that dog.
He said his last moments with the dog prior to showing up on this scene involved the dog park, and the dog was licking the back of his neck as they drove.
Ah, man, that's horrible. It's unbelievable. This is a very disturbing video on our website here where this dog is shot. And it starts off by, evidently, you can go to the website and look at it, but this is one of the most disturbing videos I've ever seen.
And we have audio with the last 40 seconds of this video. We have it edited.
All right, before we play the audio, here's what you're about to hear. There's about 8 cop cars. The Hawthorne Police Department is serving either an arrest, or there's a robbery going on, they arrested somebody. And there's a black guy there with his dog. And his dog looks like a Rottweiler, right?
Yes.
And the black guy's yelling at the cops, why aren't there any black cops out here? Why is it all white cops? It's a civil rights violation. And he's yelling at the cops while the cops are trying to arrest these guys. And he's videotaping him. And he keeps yelling at the cops. The cops look over to him, and he goes and puts his dog in the car, and and the cops say, "Come here, we want to talk to you." The cops put him in handcuffs immediately.
And he turned around.
Right, he knew he was going to get handcuffed.
There was no resisting on his part at all.
So he turns around, he gets handcuffed, and he's saying it's a civil rights violation. Why aren't there any black cops out here? Why is it all white cops? Then the dog who's barking, because the guy is, while he's being arrested, it looks like, the cops are frisking him, and the dog thinks that his owner is under attack.
Yeah.
So the dog jumps out of the car to defend the guy who owns the dog, his owner. And sniffs around the ground, goes to lunge at a cop, and then the dog backs down. And then either bit or lunged at a cop's gun or his arm and went to bite him, and the cop shoots the dog 3 or 4 times. The dog ends up in the street kicking and screaming and whining, and since has passed away. But, man, I feel bad for that guy who witnessed his dog getting shot like that, shot to death. And this video, I hate to say it, but this video may cause some unbelievable reaction here in Southern California.
Yeah, it has been said.
It has the potential.
In many newsrooms across the country, yes, people grieve for children who lose their lives.
Right.
But seldom do you get a reaction the way you get a reaction when something happens to a dog.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, Al-Qaeda, you never saw them chopping off the heads of puppies or dogs. The whole world would have turned against them for some reason. But this is an unbelievable video, and it is going to, I think the reaction tomorrow is going to be heavy for this video.
And I've just put it this way about the audio. I'm about to play the audio, and Angel Martinez has asked that I let her know when it's over because she's not going to listen. Because it's like I said, people react when dogs are involved. All things are off the table.
All right. Well, how about this? How about if we let people who want to go see it just go see it, and may not play the audio? What do you think? Because I don't want to turn people off. I mean, listening to a dog screaming like that, dying.
All right. Let me
is
isolate.
Big turn off.
Let me isolate part of the audio. Let me give me 15 seconds.
Okay. All right. And let's maybe, as the gunshots start, maybe that's where we end it. All right. But it's a Hawthorne Police Department. Some guy caught this all on video, and it's on our website. God only knows how long it'll be there, and God only knows how long it'll be on YouTube. Because I tried to see another version of this, and that version was already taken down.
I will just isolate the gunshots because prior to that, it's
and
just
then nothing after the gunshots.
Right.
All right.
And
now look,
that is at the Rottweiler. That is they're probably 3 feet apart, 4 feet apart.
Right. And now I've tried to get another version of this, and it says an error has occurred. Please try again. And so this video may be taken off the website, or at least taken off YouTube for whatever reason.
And we tried to get a hold of this dog owner, and there's a number that we have for him that has been busy, so it may be off the hook. And we've also tried to get a hold of the guy who shot this video of the dog getting shot. So we're waiting to hear back from him, from Gabriel. If you know Gabriel Martinez in the Hawthorne area,
we'll open up the phones. If you know anybody surrounding this case, whether it's the cops, the guy who owned the dog, the guy who shot the video, 1-800-520-1KFI, 1-800-520-1KFI.
And I know we say it a lot, it just kind of jokingly, like they might make us take this down, this or that. This one, management might actually ask us to take it down because it can be that disturbing to some people. We do have warnings up. We do have the graphic video. We have the graphic language, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but people are going to find it another place. So whether they find it on our website or whether they go to YouTube, they're going to find it. Yeah. And why make it more difficult for them to find it?
Yeah, it's on your page, KFIAM640.com. And again, at Newspaper.
I've never seen a dog shot and killed before.
I've not either. And it's disturbing. Hold on, I'm trying to coordinate with Misty behind the scenes here.
All right, I'm watching this video for the 5th time, and I'm just isolating the guy now. I want to see the guy's reaction to all this. He walks over to the cops. He's got his cell phone in his right hand. He puts his cell phone in his right pocket. One of the cops grabs him, handcuffs him, and not gently, but handcuffs him. Another guy pulls out another pair of handcuffs, and they handcuff him while the guy is turning around saying something to the cop. Then they take him off the curb. They put him on the grass right now, on the grass shoulder there, spread his legs, and it looks like he may be resisting. I'm not going to say he is or not, but the cops are reacting as if he is, if he's resisting them searching his pockets. And as the two cops are searching his pockets, another cop comes over and sees that the dog has jumped out of the black car. And that's when even the guy videotaping it is like screaming like, oh, no, not the dog, not the dog. The third cop there is now pointing his gun at the dog with the officer's right hand. And the dog comes over to the guy who owns the dog and is barking. Now he's sniffing around the ground, and now he's lunging at the officer. Then the owner tries to kick the dog to say, get back on the curb. And the officer then approaches the dog. The dog bites. It looks like he bites the gun or bites the right hand that the cop has the gun in.
Yeah, like it looks as if maybe the officer was reaching for the collar or for the leash. One way or the other.
Right. Then the cop stands back. He gets in his shooting stance with his left leg back, his right leg forward.
Or a woman, that officer?
It looks like a man.
Okay.
And then he takes the first shot knocks the dog off his legs and onto his back onto the sidewalk. And then he shoots him 2 or 3 more times. The dog is still lunged the second time and is now falling into the street. And then it's just with his legs up. Oh, it's really disturbing. I mean, if you're an animal rights activist and you love these doggies, like most of us do, whatever the circumstances are surrounding what happened there, watching a dog get shot like that is so depressing.
And like I said, we've all seen a lot of videos of a lot of things, a lot of bad things come, on the computers of this newsroom and others. I've watched that video once, and that's enough for me. Don't like seeing that again.
Yeah, I've watched it for my last time, too. I'm not going to look at that anymore.
Can't do it. Especially since I know what happens, so that makes it that much worse. Mm-hmm. It just the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, well let me see what happens because this has been tweeted out, and I want to I want to see what the buzz is about. See what all the talk is going to be, and wow.
Tim Conway Jr., Aaron Bender knocking out that news bender. Lots of action on Twitter.
Most of which we cannot read.
Over the video that we posted up on our website here, where a dog is shot to death by the Hawthorne Police Department, or at least what it looks like on the videotape, but we haven't confirmed that yet. But
according to Daily Breeze has pretty much backed up everything that's on the video that we see. They also have reaction from Hawthorne Police Department.
Oh, okay. What's the reaction from the police department?
Police department, they basically said, and let me scroll to this. Hold on just one second. I just want to double check. Hawthorne Police Lieutenant Scott Swain. I know it's the dog's master and more likely not going to attack him, but we've got a guy handcuffed that's kind of defenseless. We have a duty to defend him, too. It looks like the officer tried to reach down and grab the leash, and then the dog lunges in the direction of him and the other officers there.
Right. This is going to cause, at least, there's going to be news vans will be surrounding Hawthorne City Hall, whether it's tonight or tomorrow. And there's going to be either a demonstration, how this happened, because from what I've seen on Twitter, people are really pissed.
I wouldn't be surprised if you get something like Today Show or Good Morning America having either this dog owner or maybe the person who shot the video.
This is going to be the big story tomorrow.
Yeah. But a lot of the stuff on Twitter, and I love you listeners. I love our Twitter followers big time. We have nearly 10,000 of them.
Wow.
But most of what people are tweeting to us about this cannot be read on air because it's too inflammatory.
Right. All right. Well, let's. But you can read it on Twitter.
You can read it on Twitter. Yeah.
Right,
just search Conway Show. But one of the tweets from Cool Zero brings up a good point. Why didn't they just use tasers? Why wasn't there a taser used in this instance? I don't know if Hawthorne Police has a policy when it comes to what they deem a vicious dog or a dog attacking them. I don't know if there's policy that involves whether they should be tased or shot.
Yeah, I mean it's really not the dog's fault. I mean I know it's a Rottweiler and people say that Rottweilers and certain kind of what are the dogs that they
who's and there is no joy in this, but there's a pit bull owner out there saying
pit bull.
Thank God it wasn't a pit.
Yeah, right. But it's not, the dog is just trying to defend its owner, the dog thought the owner was in trouble. And so the dog went over to defend, and the dog can't tell whether these guys are cops or whether they're priests. The dogs, it doesn't look at a badge and say, oh, maybe I should back off. So go look at the video if you can stomach it. It's what everybody will be talking about tomorrow. It's going to be national news tomorrow. And whether there's a demonstration at the Hawthorne Police Department or not, we'll cover that.
Yeah, but whether it's PETA organized or if it's community organized, there's going to be something going down, and there's already talk of legal action involving the owner, whether he's being encouraged, but he already has an attorney who has said there's been a pattern of harassment against his client Rosby and other African Americans in Hawthorne last July, and he goes on to different incidents that involve Hawthorne and the community. So,
all right, go look at it if you can. All right, what else is going on?
And this is according to the Daily Breeze. Rosby already has a lawsuit against the city of Hawthorne and 2 police officers that he filed back in March, contending the officers broke one of his ribs when they responded to a domestic violence disturbance at his house, not far from where the dog was shot.
Yeah.
So
it looks
there's
like
history. There's some history, at least, with Rosby and the Hawthorne Police Department, whether it involves those officers and they knew him. That remains to be seen.
The guy who owns the dog clearly hates the cops, and whether it's because of his history with those certain cops that were there or just the police department in general, he's yelling at the cops saying it's racist, they're violating his civil rights because there's no black cops out there when they're arresting what I guess was a black guy out there, or robbery suspects. But I think he'd be saying that only because there were only white cops out there and there were black guys involved.
And he has, according to Daily Breeze, he has filed 6 complaints against Hawthorne PD claiming mistreatment and racial profiling. And court records show he has previous convictions for resisting, battery, and driving under the influence.
Oh, boy.
So again, there's at least some history there legally.
Right.
Whether there's any history between this guy Rosby and those officers in question, that remains to be seen. There's a lot of reporting that still needs to be done.
Excellent. Before we get to our first guest, Michael Goulden, G-U-L-D-E-N is his name. He's the attorney for Leon Rosby. He's the guy who had the dog in Hawthorne and was questioned by the cops. The dog gets out of the car, and the cops shoot the dog and kill the dog. You can see the video on our website. Go to KFIAM640.com, and it's right there. It's fairly gruesome to watch. If you don't have a stomach for that, if you've never seen a dog shot to death, and that would bother you, please don't watch it. We don't want to lose you as a listener because you become disgruntled and pissed off. Please don't do that. I imagine Mark Thompson, who's one of the biggest dog lovers you'll ever see in your life. Did you have the guts to watch it or the stomach?
It's funny.
I
heard you talking about it. I haven't watched it all the way through. I saw it up to the freeze frame. I don't need to literally see this poor thing die. But I'm so excited to talk to this guy because I do feel as though I saw enough to have an opinion.
Good. Excellent. All right, let's talk to attorney for Leon Rosby here. His name is Michael, I believe it's Goulden. Is that right, or Golden?
Goulden. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. All right, so, Michael, where do we begin here? We've got a million questions for you here. First of all, by the way, how is Leon? I mean, get into, at least the personable stuff first, that he's lost his dog. How long did he have this dog? How close was he? Is it a new dog? Has he had it years?
Yes, Max the dog was 2 years old when he was murdered, and it's the family dog. Mr. Rosby has a wife, 2 young children, and of course they're all devastated by the loss.
Oh, I bet. I mean, how old are the kids?
The kids are 12 and 13 years old.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That is devastating. Yeah, I mean, not only is your dog, have to tell the kids that the dog is dead, but there's videos circling around where you can actually see it shot to death. That has got to be so traumatic for those kids.
Right. Absolutely.
So what is the history now? How did this happen? What were the cops doing there, and what was your client doing there?
Well, of course, we're still investigating, but my understanding is that the police were on scene in Mr. Rosby's neighborhood, and they were investigating some sort of robbery or burglary. There were numerous police cars that you can see from the actual video that's on YouTube. And so many members of the community and neighborhood were on scene watching, wondering what's going on, and filming the incident. And that's exactly what Mr. Rosby was doing. He actually had brought Max, the dog, to the dog park for a walk on a Sunday afternoon and was returning home and discovered this police activity and got out of his vehicle.
Well, he was actually, because we do see it on the video, he's approaching the police officers, and then he turns around and is cuffed. What prompted the police officers to take this guy who was just walking his dog and approach him and then cuff him?
Well, that's a good question. I'm as confused as you are as to that. Basically, they claim at this point that Mr. Rosby was obstructing the investigation, which is certainly controverted by the actual video evidence that we have. He was simply standing on the sidewalk walking his dog and taking a video of the incident with his cell phone, which you can't see in the video, but there were crowds and crowds of people behind Mr. Rosby doing the exact same thing.
I see. And why did he get the attention of the cops when nobody else did?
Well, again, we're still investigating that.
Right.
However, Mr. Rosby has had a few run-ins with the Hawthorne Police Department. Again, he does live in that neighborhood. And he was previously involved in sort of a police brutality incident back in July of 2011. And that case is still pending in court, and he believes that he saw one of the Hawthorne PD officers who were involved in his beating on the scene of the dog incident, and that they may have recognized him from that.
Well, you're alleging, though, Michael, that there's a pattern of harassment against him in Hawthorne. And that's a direct quote from you, and you feel is that essentially what you're going to try to make a case for?
Well, again, we're still investigating this specific incident. However, after the beating incident in July of 2011, there have been several instances where we believe that Mr. Rosby was targeted for no reason, basically. And again, we don't know for sure that this is part of that targeting pattern, but it's something we're looking into.
Let me ask you a question about the dog and the way owners are with their dogs. And as Tim has said, I'm a big animal and dog guy.
The biggest.
Yeah, so this is hard for me. But I really believe that people have the responsibility is on us to help animals in tough situations. And we know that this kind of animal, a Rottweiler, and by the way, I don't mean to say it, but, depending on whatever animal, any animal, protective dog type creature, could be distressed by its owner going away with these guys and want to do something. So in a sense, it's the onus is on the owner to put the dog, secure the dog in a situation where he won't be able to do that. Was that done or not?
You're absolutely right. That is correct. And if you, again, review the video, basically you'll see the police. You can't hear it in the video, but when he's on the sidewalk there, they're yelling for him to put the dog in the car or you're under arrest. So he goes to put the dog in the car, and you'll recall Sunday was a very, very hot day. The windows were, of course, down. You don't want to leave a dog in a car with your windows up ever. So he didn't even realize at that point that, the dog may even possibly escape. He had no idea, wasn't even thinking about that. And really one of the main points here is that the fact that the dog did escape, that could pose a threat. However, lethal force, 4 shots, was absolutely excessive and unnecessary. There were many other alternatives that the police could have taken to subdue that dog.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people on Twitter saying, why didn't they use the taser first with the dog? But listen, I'm not going to second guess these guys. But what was your client was yelling something in the videotape? You can hear that he said it's racist. Why are all the cops white here? What was that all about?
Well, that I don't have specific information on. We're still looking into that. Whether that happened or not, I don't know. Right. But I do know that, again, Mr. Rosby is a longtime resident of Hawthorne, and it's his understanding that, there's been several incidents, not only with himself, but other residents being African-American and having issues with the Hawthorne PD, and that there's a large disparity between the number of African-American police officers compared to the whole force.
Yeah, I went to, not bragging, but I went to Hollywood Park today. And I drove right down that street because I was in the area and I wanted to get a vibe for where this happened. And that looks like a real rough area.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that is.
Well,
I mean,
right, and we do know that the population is certainly, majority African American, and we do know that the Hawthorne Police Department has a large disparity in the number of African American officers compared to non-African American.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. So that's something that I guess you guys have looked into, and the numbers don't add up.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, listen. I know you've had a million requests for for interviews, and you've turned them all down and accepted ours. We really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And as this continues to go through the courts, I hope you'll think of us first and ignore all the other requests from other outlets.
Of course. You guys got it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Michael.
Thank you.
All right. There he goes, Michael Goulden. It seems like a guy who's not completely outraged over what happened. He says, all right, yeah, you're right. Maybe the client should have restrained the dog a little more. He's not over the top.
I agree.
With the rancor and the cops are horrible and my client is God.
Right. And honestly, that gives him some cred. I mean, in this discussion,
right.
Because it may be a situation in which there's sort of shared blame, and those are tough spots.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. That was a sensational interview. I mean, we may play that again at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 9:30.
I've already actually carved out one segment of the Newsbender for a replay.
Gabriel Martinez, we're going to try to get him on next. He was the one that took the videotape. If you have not seen the videotape, you've got to look at it. Unless you are such a dog lover like Mark Thompson, and it horrifies you to see a dog literally shot to death by the Hawthorne Police Department.
Let me just say this, because I've watched it several times off of the KFI website. You can watch it to get an idea of what's happening up to the point that you see the dog lunge or whatever, and then you can stop.
It, right.
I mean,
exactly.
So we do give you that option,
yes.
too.
All right, but please go ahead and watch it if you want to get up to speed, because next we'll have the guy who took the videotape, and his name is Gabriel Martinez.
That better be a good interview as well, because that's already going to be replayed at 9:20.
All right, let's talk to Gabriel Martinez. He's the one that videotaped the shooting there in Hawthorne of the dog. And it's up on our videotape, our website. You can go look at it right now. Go to KFIAM640.com, click on Tim Conway Jr. It's the top story there. It was on the Drudge Report. It was on almost every single local station and some of the national stations and all the cables as well. This is a big story. It's a big national story, and it was brought to us by, Aaron Bender will tell us how we got it in a minute here. But first, Gabriel Martinez, welcome to KFI. How are you, sir?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Hey, so this thing has really taken off for you, huh?
Yeah, unexpected.
Yeah. What happened? You live in that neighborhood, or how did you find yourself there?
Yeah, that's actually my street.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, so I was in my house, or in the garage actually, listening to music, so I didn't really hear anything that was going on in the neighborhood until my sister came in to visit, and that's when she pointed out that the police and the SWAT team were there at some house. Something happened, which I didn't know at the time what it was.
Right.
So I saw a big crowd of people at the corner of the block, so I walked up there, and that's when I started videotaping.
And how many people were there?
I'd say at least 30 to 50,
oh, okay.
30, 40. Yeah.
And you weren't the only guy videotaping then?
No, I wasn't. There was another person, actually a mutual friend of mine. He was across the street videotaping from his phone, which that video actually made it as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller video.
Right. Does he also have footage of the dog being shot?
Yeah, he has the footage from the dog being shot, but from a distance.
Oh, I see. So you have the better one, the close-up one.
That must. Yeah.
I heard the commentary. I heard you laughing at the guy, because you're like, wow, this guy's really taunting the cops and laughing at this guy.
Yeah, it was just, he's just bold, real bold to be that close up front.
Right. What was he saying to the cops? Was it clear?
It was just something along the lines of the main reason he was videotaping it. I guess he has history in the past of doing this as well.
Right.
But a lot of people do this around neighborhoods, especially Hawthorne. They have the tendency to videotape Hawthorne PD and what they do. There's several videos on YouTube. You could actually type in, Hawthorne PD, and people actually have videos recording them. But they just want to make sure that the cops are doing everything correctly and, against the book, with the book, not against the law.
I see. And is there been a history in your neighborhood of people who are suspicious of the cops?
Yeah, there's people around the neighborhood just basically just videotaping the cops, trying to find stuff against them, and lots of it really isn't against the cops, but they like to say it is. It's a very controversial topic.
Okay. Well, we're going to have somebody from Hawthorne Police on, or Steve Gregory actually conducted an interview, so we're going to get their angle after the bottom of the hour.
Was his tone really argumentative, or was it confrontational? Because when we pick up the action, it was right away he's walking toward the cops, and they ask him to turn around, and, that's what we see in your video, that he's asked to turn around clearly, and He puts the dog in the car initially, then he goes back to the cops and he's handcuffed.
Right.
In other words, what did you see what prompted them to do that? Why are they putting cuffs on the guy? Could you tell?
Yeah, honestly, from my perspective, I'm not sure. The officer could probably tell you better, but from what I've seen, I thought the guy was going to leave. I thought he was going to flee the scene, and I think he could have, and the cops would have let him go. But for some reason, he puts the dog in the car with the windows down. He puts the dog in the car, and he walks towards the officer. And I don't know if he did that just to turn himself in, or if the officer told him, turn yourself in.
Right. That must have been shocking to you and the rest of the people in that neighborhood who not only saw the dog get shot and killed, but if those bullets don't hit the dog and they ricochet, I mean,
right.
Everybody in the line of fire there was could have been shot.
Right. Yeah, so my brother was telling me he was afraid of the bullets ricocheting. He was like, let's go. You don't know. You could probably miss. And, bullet.
Gabriel Martinez with us real quick. But once the dog is shot and he's laying in the street,
right.
What do the cops do? They call animal control? Do they go over and try to help the dog?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Only reason being is because as soon as the dog got shot, where the video cut off, right there and then, it was too much for me to take. So I just put, my cousin was next to me. I just put my hand on his shoulder, put my head on his shoulder, because there's just so much to take.
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, as soon as that happened, the officer told us all to, the officer was telling us to leave.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
we were storming down the block and just leaving, and they put the caution tapes up, and that's about it.
Did you have nightmares about what you saw?
I couldn't sleep.
Yeah,
I didn't sleep till 4 a.m. But,
wow.
Yeah, a lot on my mind.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on. I know that you had, requests from a lot of different outlets, and you turned them all down and came on with us. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, then, and can we check in with you if anything else happens?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel. Appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, there he goes, the guy who shot the video and the lawyer for the guy who owned the dog. And then we come back, Steve Gregory interviewed some folks with the Hawthorne Police Department. We'll get that angle as well. All the angles on this dog being shot in Hawthorne right here on KFI. Steve Gregory is with us. He's standing by.
Left off on the play, and that is going to be a touchdown running it in, Steve Gregory.
Steve-O!
What's up, buddy?
Hey, look at you, man. Where are you physically?
I'm actually in Hawthorne.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, we have some audio we're going to play here. Can we play it first? You want to set it up? What do you want to do?
Sure. The audio that you're going to probably play is a segment of a one-on-one interview I did with Lieutenant Scott Swain of the Hawthorne Police Department. He's the commander of the Detectives Division, and he was kind enough to sit down with me today. I did a 22-minute interview with him. This is a small segment of that. And I'll tell you, I was hammering this guy pretty hard. I was asking him some pretty hard questions about the incident on Sunday night. And you can play a little bit of it,
okay.
And then I'll go from there.
All right, we're going to play. It's about 4 minutes. By the way, the RPU is worse than your cell phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've got a buzzing there.
Well, while you're playing the audio, we'll fix it behind the scenes.
Well, as I like to say, you put the PU in RPU. All right, very good. Let's get into this interview here. All right, here we go. It is Hawthorne. We can turn the Steve's down because that buzzing is going to wipe me out. Here's Steve Gregory interviewing the Hawthorne Police Department about the incident that you can see on our website. Go to KFIAM640.com and click on my picture there, Tim Conway Jr. It's the one right on top, and it is a video. If you don't have a stomach that is thick and you don't have, if you have nightmares about stuff like this, with that dog getting shot, don't watch it. But if you can struggle through it, it is national news. It's everywhere. It's on all these cable stations, all the networks. So here we go. Here's the interview with the Hawthorne cops.
There's really no way to control those people. I mean, even if you put yellow tape up in front of their house, they're still going to come out into their driveways. So you can control you can try to contain them, but you can't completely control foot traffic and looky-loos when you have incidents like this.
The other thing that struck me kind of interesting too, is the fact that the officers were very aware that he had the dog. But I would have thought to myself, first thing I thought was, why didn't an officer have the dog contained first before knowing that the window was down and walking toward the car and seeing it? Why didn't the officers try to control that part of it first before? Because the other guy was completely compliant. It wasn't like he was resisting.
Right.
Oh, that's a great question.
Great question. Just a terrific question.
Wow.
So I'm just curious why the officers didn't notice that the dog may have been an issue.
I think they did notice that the dog was an issue. I can't speak to what they were thinking at the time,
Sure.
But what I can say is I think that they knew that the dog was an issue, but they didn't think that far forward to think that, you know what, when we try to take this guy into custody, that dog's going to come out. Because really that is probably one of the first questions you ask. Well, what do you have the guy come over there if you're going to, why don't you tell him to roll his window up? But like I told the other people that we've we've talked to today, each one of these incidents that whether they're justified,
and you know what? Let me go back here. That's a very honest response from a cop, where he's like questioning the tactics of a fellow officer. You never hear that.
What do you have the guy come over there if you're gonna, why don't you tell him to roll his window up?
Yeah, and I think he's talking about the cop there. Let's bring Steve
that's exactly
Gregory
what he's
back
doing,
up.
right.
Steve, is he talking about the cop there, where he says, he's not on RPU? Okay, all right, we're going to try to get a better connection with Steve Gregory. He's where, Winchell's? He's using the payphone at Winchell's, so that'll be a better connection.
Like I told the other people that we've we've talked to today, each one of these incidents that whether they're justified, unjustified, there's always learning points, and that's certainly a learning point that you pick up from that.
Okay, let's talk to Steve here. Steve, you're back on with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question here about this segment. Is he talking about the cop when he says this?
What do you have the guy come over there if you're going to, why don't you tell him to roll his window up?
I'm sorry, Tim. I couldn't hear that in my ear. I'm having problems hearing my ear. Go for it again.
Okay, here.
What do you have the guy come over there if you're going to, why don't you tell him to roll his window up?
Oh.
Is that him talking about the cop?
He's talking about the dog owner.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So he's not talking about the cop. All right. So I was wrong.
Each one of these incidents that whether they're justified, unjustified, there's always learning points. And that's certainly a learning point that you pick up from that. If you're going to arrest someone with a dog, you got to make sure, because that dog's going to be, so even if it would have went down and the arrest went down and the dog was completely compliant, guess what? You got to babysit a dog. You got to do something with that dog.
Does it have animal control?
We do, but that's what I mean. Until they get there, and on Sunday night they're not working. They had to be called in for that one. So that,
yeah, I imagine on Sunday night animal control is the Maytag man.
No, you get a recording. There. I've actually tried to reach them on a Sunday night about various incidents that you'll from time to time, year to year, stuff happens. And if if it's not, it's the way so much in life is. If it doesn't happen between 9 and 5,
I know. In Burbank, they pick up all the time.
Is that right, Tim?
Yep.
So that's what I mean. We don't have 24-hour animal control services in this city. So
we do.
That's what I mean. You got to kind of think that far forward. And if we're going to make an arrest with someone with a dog, sometimes you want to think about taking care of that dog before you put handcuffs on him.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. It's like when you arrest a guy in a car for either he's on a warrant or he's got a DUI and you got kids in that car, it complicates the issue. Because now you don't want to do anything in front of the kids that are going to make the kids cry or react to dad being arrested. You don't want to traumatize the kids. But then again, you can't just let the guy go. Then you have to bring in somebody, a child specialist who can talk to the kids and say, hey, this isn't the end of the world. You guys are going to be okay. It's a big deal.
Yeah. This is one of those situations where I feel as though the police officers, precisely for the reasons that sort of Steve alludes to in his interview, the guy was being compliant. Somebody's got to have the presence of mind. It seems, and look, I know it's a lot easier. I feel for these cops. They don't know what situation is going to get super volatile on them,
right.
And you got so much going on, and you got neighborhood now starting to gather. It's really volatile situation potentially. But having said all that, the guy is compliant. Why not make sure the dog is secured? Have the owner secure the dog. You had a leash for it. Have the owner secure the dog in the car. You don't have to roll the windows all the way up. Just roll them up to a point that we know the dog can, and then let's secure that leash.
Yeah, the dog has to be secured.
Right.
Whether it's the cop or whether it's the guy who's handcuffed, whatever, or maybe it's a friend. Somebody has to secure that dog.
I'm just assuming that the owner could do it because because the owner was complying with all the police requests at that point. It seemed.
All right, here's the Hawthorne Police Department's reaction and an interview that was done earlier today by Steve Gregory. We'll continue with that. All right, let's get back into the interview here, and then at 8:00.
You actually are fair and balanced, though, when you use it.
But thank you. Commentary right there. But also at 8:00, the Department of Water and Power, LADWP, is ripping people off. I have the proof, and we'll tell you at 8 p.m. All right? That is unbelievable. All right, back with Steve Gregory here. We're going to play some more of this interview, Steve, and then we'll stop it and start it here. What was the overall feel, though? It seems like the person you interviewed here has some questions himself. Is that right?
Well, it was interesting because I think I brought up some points that hadn't been brought up before, and I was hammering this guy pretty good. And then we'll talk a little bit later, but at one point, I think he got so frustrated that he said, listen, we've been getting other angles and other videos from this incident. Would you like to see them? And he took me up to the Detectives Bureau and showed me a video that paints a completely different picture than the one you see online.
Really?
Yes, and it's not been released.
Wow. I'd like to see that video. What is that video of the dog yelling at the cops?
It's the same,
how different?
It's the same incident, but it's from a more steady hand, and it's right in front of the officers and the gentleman, the dog owner,
I see.
As opposed to across the street and a little shakier. Yeah,
all right. So now, when you saw that video that hasn't been released, did it change your opinion?
Well, I mean, I didn't have
not totally, but
I didn't formulate an opinion to begin with when I saw the video. I just looked at it and said, "Oh, okay," and then I said, "Well, it's tragic. Anytime you see anything getting killed in front of you, it's a tragic situation."
Yeah.
But I've been doing this long enough to know that you've got to dissect the story and you've got to break it down to what the parts are, and then you kind of add it up from there. So.
All right, let's continue with the interview. Here we go. And by the way, who are we listening to here in Hawthorne?
This is Lieutenant Scott Swain. He is the commander of the detectives there at
Hawthorne
PD.
Okay, here we go.
But you know what? Every situation is different. I mean, this was, even though it had been brought to a conclusion and the guy is compliant, he's walking towards the officer, it was still a tense situation. I mean, a hour and 45-minute standoff with an armed barricaded suspect inside is a hair-raising incident.
What was the time lapse between, the initial event? So you're saying an hour and 45 had gone by before this incident happened?
Right.
So, but the two officers involved, at least the initial officers involved in the arrest, were they directly involved in the thing, or were they just more in the background or support?
No, they were part of the perimeter.
So they were so they were support in the perimeter.
Right, yeah.
Because the other thing that catches my attention, too, is, okay, fine, dog's in the car barking, but no one still thought to even address the dog, even though the dog's barking, very loudly, and no one even looks over and sees that. So was this a situation of tunnel vision, where the cops are so focused on the arrestee and that situation that no one even noticed? Or
I think probably it could have been a little. I don't know. I'd hate to speak for the officers, but I would say they just did. They were probably thinking that this.
Seen the video,
right?
You're a lieutenant, so based on your experience, how do you see it?
I think that they probably thought that dog was going to be compliant. That dog wasn't that the arrestee had enough control over his dog. He put the dog back. And he probably figured that, the dog's not going to come flying out of that car. And again, that's one of those things that we'll learn from this incident. Next time you're going to make an arrest and there's a dog involved, make sure those windows are up or that dog's secured, that leash is secured onto something where that dog can't come running out.
So you really think that dog was going to attack that officer?
Absolutely. I think that video shows it, but the video that we've received from one of the residents out there, it's clear. The dog made a jumping, lunging motion at that officer, and it came within inches of the officer's chest.
Yeah, looking at that video, I agree with him, and I think it also has to do with the kind of dog it is. If that's a standard poodle, I don't think the dog gets shot and killed. I think
it's a Rottweiler.
I think the reputation of that dog precedes him.
It did look like the dog was lunging, but as I default to the earlier point, which is that that dog has to be secured by the owner with police supervision. And I also would hope that with that many police officers involved, there's a cool head, somebody who's thinking that through. But again, there's a whole chain of command, and I mean, these are very complicated and potentially volatile police situations. So.
Hey, Steve, did you bring up the fact somebody had sent us a tweet saying why didn't they use their taser? Was that?
Yep. Yeah, that was part of the longer part of the interview. As I said, well, what about less lethal? And they said that there is pepper spray and tasers that are on the belts of the officers. And I said, well, why didn't they deploy or use any of those? And they said that because at that point it escalated to the level of being more violent, especially when the jaws of the dog opened up. It was a split-second decision on the part of the cop.
Right. Are you in Hawthorne, California, or Hawthorne, Italy?
You think his signal's not that good?
I'll tell you something. Anytime we're around LAX, it gets all freaky because it's hard to hear you on this end too. So anytime we're around here, we're transmitting on radio frequency, so we're subject to getting pounded on.
Yeah, no, I get it. I say no more stories from near the airport.
Yeah, but did you want the video that I saw? Just real quickly.
I'd like to see that. Is that available?
No, it's not going to be available. This is something that the detectives showed me that came in voluntarily from the neighbor on the corner there that shot the video of the incident, and it's clearer and steady, and you can hear what's being said back and forth between the dog owner and the cops.
What was the dog owner saying?
And the dog owner, I got to be honest with you, the dog owner was basically taunting, and he was talking some smack to the cops, and then while he was being arrested, then when the dog finally jumps out of the window of the car and runs up, you hear him saying, "Don't shoot my dog, don't shoot my dog," whereas the guy recording the video is saying, "Shoot him, shoot him,
oh, boy.
Shoot him," and then you've got the officer, the one that ends up opening fire on the opening fire on the dog. His left hand, he curls his fingers under, like you do when you meet a new dog and you want the dog to sort of, kind of sniff you out and kind of feel you out a bit.
Yeah, you put your hand below the dog's mouth, right?
He did that, initially did that. He was attempting to sort of calm the dog down, make contact with the dog, allow the dog to walk behind him, kind of sniff around, then come back to the front. The officer appeared to be looking and following his leash, sort of like he was going to grab the leash and maybe take control. But by then, in his gun, it's the whole time's in his right hand to the right side of his body. And then that's when the dog jumped up with his jaws open. And then the first shot actually comes point-blank range into the dog. You don't see that on the other video.
Wow.
So the first shot's point-blank. And then that's when he shoots downward motion, because then I asked, well, wasn't he concerned about all the people standing in the yard that shot the video?
Right.
And he said, well, if you notice, he's shooting downward into the dirt.
Right.
And so, that's what you see. And so you kind of take away from that the officer, at least in the very short term, was attempting to calm the dog before it happened.
I'm sure the officers didn't want to kill the dog.
I'm sure they own dogs as well. But one last question. Was there any protests out there in front of either City Hall or the police department in Hawthorne?
No, there have been no protests, but you could hear just it's sort of the outrage and the reaction on scene and any time. And for some reason, it's always worse with an animal that's in an altercation or in something like this than it is when two people get into a fight and one goes down, one goes unconscious. You don't hear much like that, but in this particular case, it just seemed to be much more elevated because it was a dog.
Right. All right, well, Steve, great job, as always, and I'm sure we'll be following up on this.
You got it, bud.
All right, thanks, man. Take care. All right, there we go. Steve Gregory, KFI News.